بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آه، يونت الوحدة الثالثة عشر من سلسلة تعليم اللغة الإنجليزية، لغة التجارة باللغة الإنجليزية، لهيئة الإذاعة البريطانية BBC كورس يونت 13 Language of Business Risk of a Takeover مخاطر تولي شركة اضافية.
Play by USB drive.
The language of business. 13. Risk of a takeover.
Peter, we've got the biggest crisis in the history of the firm facing us.
Good Lord, that sounds pretty fearful. That way. Something to do with Ambrose Harvey's, I suppose.
Precisely. Now you know how the shares of this company are distributed. Your mother and I own 20% of the capital each. At the last share with 50%. And the remaining 10% is in the hands of our friends, the mattress makers over the road, with different company. Well, Ambrose has left 2,000 of his 2,500 shares to form a trust. The remaining 500 is left to his sister Caroline.
But she's a very wealthy woman. Surely she won't sell the 500 shares.
My dear Peter, that's just the trouble. I spoke to her after the solicitor had finished reading Ambrose's will, and she told me she'd had a very generous offer for the shares.
But who from? Who knew she'd inherit them?
That wily old bird Wentworth. He's wanted to get in here for a long time. He knew she was Ambrose's only remaining relative.
Well, that's easily prevented, isn't it? We're a private company. Caroline can't sell her shares without offering them first to the other shareholders. We must make an offer too. We can't allow Wentworth to own so many shares. If any of us had to sell at any time, we could easily get a further interest in the company.
Exactly. But who in our family has got the money to buy them?
I certainly can't. I'm in the way as it is.
And the way you live, that doesn't surprise me.
Somehow we'll have to raise a loan and buy enough of the shares ourselves to keep the controlling interest.
Well, let's see. The total share capital must have a market value now of about £500,000. If we bought 250, that would be about £25,000.
The bank ought to be able to lend you that amount. That's what I think.
I'd better see the bank manager today. Morning, Mr. Brewer.
Good of you to see an important client like yourself, Mr. Grant.
Can I do for you? I want to know. Right away. 25,000.
Oh, I see. 25,000. Well, now, that is quite a large sum.
Not for me. You know how well the firm is doing.
Yes, but of course, the firm can't provide security, since the loan is, I understand, required by your good faith.
Well, Mr. Brewer, this is rather unnecessary, isn't it? You have our record. A record of business is your guarantee. You know me well enough to advance me an unsecured loan, surely.
As you know, I shall have to apply to our head office, but they will go very much by my recommendation, and I don't think I would be prepared to do so without some form of security.
Oh. Well, what are you going to do about it? I can tell you one thing. If there's any question of not getting a loan, I'll consider taking my account and that of the company elsewhere.
That would be an action we might have to consider, Mr. Grant. But if I may say so, I think you would find any bank manager would take the same view. Now, perhaps it might be more relevant to consider what forms of security you might be able to offer. You have a large house. Is it mortgaged?
It is.
That's a pity. The deeds of your house would have been perfectly adequate security. The house is worth what? 20,000?
30. The mortgage is with the Albion Building Society.
Well now, it may be possible to raise a second mortgage on your property. Though I can tell you frankly that my head office doesn't like second mortgages. So I might be prepared to make a recommendation on this basis.
How would you arrange the payment?
Well, if my head office agrees, you could have a straight loan and pay 2% above the bank rate, so the rate of interest would be about 9%. Short-term loan would say 3 years.
Well, you work all that out. I accept your advice. All I want is the money, and I want it quickly. What did I tell you, Peter? After all that fuss about security, I've got the loan. The bank manager wasn't going to risk losing our account. Well, we're saved. Wentworth can't get a holding equal to mine or your mother's. Aren't you pleased?
Of course I'm pleased. But you know, the other day Mr. Brewer was not at all in favour of the loan.
How do you know?
I went to see him about my overdraft. He told me he was very upset by what he called your threats.
What did you say?
Oh, I talked to him about the vital part of banks playing helping industry to expand. Our firm like ours depended a great deal on their foresight and business sense. You know the sort of thing.
I don't see what difference that would make.
One of these days, I'll give you a few tips on how to deal with bank managers. It was one of the first things I learned after I left school. Say these sentences. You know how the shares of this company are distributed. Your money is 20% of the capital each. We've got 2,000 shares to form a stock. The remaining 200 shares is left to his sister. The total share capital must have a market value now of about £500,000. See the bank manager today. I want a loan or an overdraft of £25,000.
AUX mode.